years, many of you have asked me, how did I learn to knit? And even though that is a memory that I hold dear in my heart, I never really asked myself the question, why do I knit? And when I thought about it, there is something deeper to that. So I first learned to knit when I was around 9 years old. My grandmother taught me. And that is something that now that knitting has become a very important practice in my daily life. It's something that I remember with warmth in my heart. Now, at that time, it was really about just the coolness of it all, that I can make something from nothing. And it was a burgundy scarf. I don't remember what kind of wool it was. I mean, I wouldn't even know at that time. It was, maybe it was acrylic. I don't know what kind of wool she gave me. And there were those long needles, not circular ones. There were those really long metal needles. And it was in garter stitch, and it was a burgundy scarf for my dad. However, what I didn't realize is that at that time, even though for me it was just the coolness of it, she was actually teaching me not only how to make that initial knit stitch, but she was teaching me something much more important. She was teaching me the importance of presence and patience, and that quiet confidence that comes with making something with our own two hands. Now, after that scarf, years passed, and like many things that we learn in childhood, knitting kind of, disappeared, and my hands found other things to do, and, school, and I went to the uni. And it wasn't until years later, that I came back to it. And it was in a difficult time of my life. Actually, it wasn't necessarily difficult. It was just a time of my life when I felt lost. And I spoke about it at the very beginning of this channel. I think it was episode 4. At that time, what brought me back to knitting. I think it was episode 4. And it was not until then that I picked it up again. And it really felt like home. Even though years have passed, however, my hands, they just remembered how to do it, how to make the movement, that muscle memory. And it really felt like coming home. I didn't, in those moments, it's exactly what I needed. I didn't need to. When I was knitting, I didn't need to fix anything. I didn't need to do anything except just, make one stitch after another. And that is exactly what I needed in that moment. At that time, I was asking myself, because I became obsessed with knitting, it was something that I started doing every day for hours. And knowing where I was in my life, I was asking myself if I'm using knitting as an escape. And the more I thought about it, it actually wasn't an escape. It was a refuge. There was a comfort in it. And since that is exactly what I needed, somehow those little stitches, those little repetitive movements, they started stitching something back inside me. They started bringing me back to my center. Is it because of the quiet? Is it because, the mind gets more quiet when I knit? That whole monkey mind inside that, has 500 different conversations at the same time. By simple act of that tiny focus on that, but not too much focus, it just managed to clear away most of those conversations that were happening in my head. And just to quiet my mind, be able to think about things, but not be overwhelmed by them. People often say that knitting takes patience, and it does. It's slow by nature. There is, from the beginning until the end, that you need to spend a lot of time until you finish to see the actual progress. But that also taught me that it's okay with not seeing results right away. For me, it's more about the process of knitting. I actually enjoy the process. And even though a single ball or a skein of yarn is an art piece in itself, I mean, this is my handspun yarn, and it's an art piece in itself, but the actual process of it and the possibility of it, when you're looking at, you know, a ball of yarn or a skein, and you're looking at it, when you're thinking, oh, what it can become. Like my husband one time, because I'm also a painter, I was looking at the blank canvas, and I was holding a blank canvas in my hands, and he told me, why are you staring at the blank canvas? And I told him, so wow, he's seeing me actually, you know, looking at this white canvas. But I told him, I said, the canvas is not white. When I'm looking at it, like there's so many paintings on it in that moment that are in my mind that I'm projecting there, and I'm just kind of like seeing which one I feel that it's going to become. But he was only seeing me looking at a white, you know, piece of stretched canvas over a wooden frame. And the same with the skein of yarn. As special they are on their own like this, and the texture and the squishiness and all that. However, when you look at it, and when you kind of have in your mind, and that project starts developing in your mind, that is a very special feeling. That just from the ideas, you can already see the finished project. And sometimes we don't even see the finished project. Many times I don't. Many times I just touch the yarn and I just let it guide me. And this very beautiful yarn and very simple stitches can create something really special. But that process of making it, that relaxing moment, those relaxing moments, hours and days of just stitch after stitch, for me that is the actual thing that kind of warms, that centers me, that warms my heart, that just makes me happy. And the idea that something that I make with my own hands can keep somebody warm, that is just such a humble thing that just brings me so much joy and makes me deeply happy. It is so simple and yet so meaningful to me. There is something actually very important that knitting also taught me, and it's a definite parallel for other things in our lives. Because when you start a project, the difference where you are and where you want to be in the end, if your goal is to have a finished project, there is time needs to take in order for you to be there, to get there. However, if you keep on showing up, even for a little bit at a time, eventually that simple act of showing up will bring you closer to where you want to be, and to, even though those moments they seem meaningless in that moment, you don't think you are making that much progress in knitting and in life as well. However, if you start showing up consistently and doing a little bit at a time, like making a very small shift in our lives, after a while, if you start going that direction, even if it's a 1 degree difference, you will end up at a very different place than you were initially if you were going to go in that straight direction. But however, yes, with knitting as well. But I do find that parallel in other things in our life quite important. I've also learned to sit with mistakes in knitting, and to be okay with them, because you can't do the craft without them, you know, drop stitches, uneven tension, things don't working out necessarily as you wanted them to work out. But then that again, going back to the parallel to other things in life, it kind of made me realize or just reminded me really that progress, it's not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up, like I just said with the previous idea. But those imperfections, they even add beauty to it. So I learned not even worry about it, but not even mind them, but embrace them, because it does make each one of the projects that we make very special. So when I make a mistake, unless it's something that is structurally going to affect the garment or being very visible, I don't tend to fix it. I just kind of fudge it and work my way along it and just leave it in there, just as a reminder of that moment. And maybe that's true for life as well, because when you think about it, the things that are most important in life are relationships. They are, whether it's with ourselves or with the people we love, they're not flawless. They're just, done with care. And the mistakes along the way, they even give them the meaning of, what they become.
When they sing and dance, oh, I wish it was me.
Knitting has also changed the way that I perceive time, because we currently live in a very fast-paced world when, everything is fast. The downloads are quick. Whatever we want, we just type on the keyboard, we get the information. We want a song to hear, we just download it straight away or go into the app. Everything is for instant satisfaction. However, with knitting, you can't have that. And it's a good reminder, especially in this day and age, that we can just sit and spend time and not see the results right away. And just spend time with doing something that we love, and not necessarily feel like we have to be productive every moment of the day, and at the same time create something beautiful that not only is going to result in the actual beautiful physical object, but also something that feeds our soul. And that is how I feel when I'm doing, and that's why I prefer actually the very simple stitches where I can just go and just let my mind, wander and spend time with myself as well as the project. And sometimes some of my best thoughts come in those moments when my hands know what to do. They're just on autopilot, but my brain is allowed to create in its own way as well. And sometimes some of my best ideas and thoughts, they come that way. And while we're knitting, it also shows us that patience is not a passive thing. You don't necessarily just sit and wait for something to happen. It's about showing up. It's about showing up constantly. And the more I think about it, the more I see those parallels with other things in our life. So we think that, well, at least I thought at points, that patience is for you just to sit and wait for something to happen. However, with knitting, you are showing up, but you're showing up regularly and persistently. And at the same time, you're patient in not seeing the results right away. And in many cases, this is what tricks us, because when we are doing something, and we don't see the progress or the results right away, we tend to give up. But we all know that from knitting, that's not the case. You know that if we show up daily, day after day, hour after hour, that progress will be done and that we will come to that place where we want to be. And then when we finally hold that project, that finished project, when we cast off the last stitch, bind off the last stitch, and when we hold that project in our hands, then sometimes we realize that it actually wasn't about the thing in itself. It was about the process, it was about the making. of the product itself, but also the process of becoming somebody different in that moment, somebody a little bit more patient, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more centered. So, why do I knit? Apart from giving me that sense of presence, that calm, repetitive movement of my hands, it's also a very nice reminder that growth in general, just like this yarn, it just needs time to unravel beautifully. Knitting gives me slowness, that quiet place, and peace.